So hello and welcome to today's onboarding webinar for T-level centres, aimed at teachers and assessors of the Education and Childcare T-level. If you haven't already done so, please pop something into the chat box, let us know you can hear us okay. You'll find it at the bottom of the webinar control panel at the right-hand side of your screen. We do encourage questions, so please add them into the question chat box. We'd like to reassure you that no question is a silly question, and if we're not able to answer it, we'll follow them up with our NCFE colleagues. Also, the session is being recorded and the recording will be shared on our YouTube channel after today. So thanks for letting us know you can hear. That's wonderful. So you'll see on the screen now what we're going to cover in today's webinar. This session focuses on education and childcare, which we've been supporting now for a year. We'll therefore also share some of the lessons learned from the providers who've been delivering the programme, and we'll be starting year 2 this September. Okay, so starting with some introductions. My name is Helen Scanlon and I'll be leading today's session. I'm one of NCFE's Curriculum Development Officers and I'm responsible for supporting the teaching and learning of the Education and Childcare T-level. You can see my T-level Curriculum Officer colleagues on the screen there. Rachel Webster's with us today. Rachel looks after the digital T-levels and David Kiernan, who's not with us at the moment, looks after the science and health T-levels. So if you have any colleagues delivering those T-levels, those are the people who they'll be working with. So a bit of background on NCFE and the provider development team which we're part of. NCFE are a national awarding organisation and we are also a registered educational charity. Our purpose is to promote and advance learning whilst helping to create a fairer and more inclusive society. We do have a strong heritage in learning that goes back over 170 years. As for the provider development team, our purpose is to support centres and providers to develop their capability to deliver world-class, transformational learning experiences and the best possible outcomes for their learners. Each of us in the team come from an education and a teaching background, working with a range of learners and across a range of settings. We support with pre-approval onboarding by running curriculum planning sessions and online workshops, the details of which are available on our website. On approval, we support teaching and learning staff through the onboarding process with a range of webinars, information, advice and guidance at salient points of the journey. One particular area of support that Wave 1 centres have found extremely valuable have been the one-to-one consultations. These consultations are held at regular intervals and there are an opportunity to discuss the challenges and issues centres are facing with the delivery of the T-levels and work collaboratively to identify effective approaches and solutions. In addition to the onboarding process, we also support centres with an ongoing programme of online CPD looking at topical and relevant areas of interest. Indicatively, this may include initial assessment and induction, linear programme delivery, formative assessment strategies, developing English and maths within the T-level, and any difficult to teach areas. In normal times, we will be supporting you through a series of face-to-face CPD and training events. Obviously, these can't go ahead in the current climate, but we will publish details of any future face-to-face events on our website as soon as we're allowed to do them. Okay, so that's the introductions done. We're going to start with a poll, which you'll see on the screen now. What we'd like to ask you is on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low and 10 being high, how would you rate your current confidence level in relation to the Education and Childcare T-level? You could consider the spec, the content, your delivery model, or assessment tasks. If you could just choose the most appropriate number for yourself, I'll launch the poll now. So the poll is now open. Please just choose which is the most appropriate starting point for yourself. Thank you to those who have voted so far. That's wonderful. I'll share the results. I'll close the poll in about another 10 seconds. Okay, lovely. We've got 100% voted, so I'm going to close that poll now and share the results. So as you can see, we've got some people feeling a little less confident and some people right in the middle, and that's where I'd expect you to be at this stage of your planning and delivery. So thanks for that. We'll revisit that after the webinar's been delivered. Okay, we're going to move on to a brief overview of the whole programme. So what is a T-level? It's a level 3 2-year programme aimed currently at 16 to 19-year-olds. They are equivalent in size, rigour and depth to 3 A-levels and as such attract UCAS points. They are vocationally focused on 11 occupational related routes and all share some common characteristics. T-levels are owned by the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education, or IFATE, and the design and the content of the T-levels came from employer panels in the relevant industries. Because of these employer panels, T-levels offer students a route to paid employment. UCAS points are available for the completion of a T-level, so students can also progress onto higher education or onto a higher level apprenticeship. So this diagram shows the overall T-level programme and consists of 5 key elements. NCFE are responsible for the assessment and awarding of the technical qualification, or TQ. This includes the knowledge, understanding, skills and behaviours required in the industry, and each Level 3 technical qualification must provide reliable evidence of students' attainment in relation to the core knowledge and understanding and skills relevant to the route and the occupational specialisms. These are all covered in the technical qualification, which, as I said, NCFE are responsible for. The subject content is set by T-level panels and approved and managed by the Institute of the Apprenticeships and Technical Qualifications. The purpose of the T-level technical qualification is to ensure that students have the knowledge and skills needed to progress into skills employment or higher level technical training relevant to that T-level. But for the full T-level programme, the components shown along the bottom of this screen identify the additional competencies and requirements. It will be the responsibility of the centre and/or student to ensure that these requirements are met. All T-levels have an industry placement in which students develop the technical skills and apply their knowledge, and a minimum number of 315 hours is required. And also maths and English requirements. Students must achieve either a GCSE grade 4 or above, or a level 2 functional skills pass to complete this component. Some T-level centres have other requirements set by T-level panels, which are essential for skilled employment. For example, a licence to practice qualification or professional registration. There is no such requirement at present for the education and childcare route. So that's the TQ. Now let's look at the core components and assessments. And I'll just take this opportunity to encourage you to put any questions into the chat box as they arise, because we'll keep an eye on that as well. So this table provides an overview of the TQ assessment. The first row shows the core component, which has an externally set and marked assignments. The grading for this is from A star to U. The second row shows the occupational specialism content and assessment, which are referred to as OS, and is assessed via a range of tasks depending upon the specialism. As the course planning takes place, previous centres focus teaching all the core components in the first year, moving on to the OS delivery and assessment in the second year. There are requirements for moderation for these with set dates, which we will run through later. The second table shows the weightings for each of the core components assessments, and as you can see, paper A and B make up 70% and the employer set project 30%. So let's look a little closer at how the core components are assessed. You'll see on the screen now how the TQ, or technical qualification, is divided into 12 elements. How the assessments is designed is as follows. Firstly, the external exams. There are 2 exams covering all of the elements, as you can see on the screen. Each exam lasts 2.5 hours, and they are available in the summer and autumn terms in June and December. The students can resit the exams, but would need to sit both, and there are fees attached to resits. They can also resit these up to 2 years after completion of their programme. For the employer set project, or ESP, these are contextualised tasks set by NCFE in conjunction with employers. And again, there is the possibility of retakes for these two, and they are available in the same windows as the exams, normally May and October. Sorry, November, not October, November. So just to confirm, the ESP set and marked by NCFE, with some tasks having input from centre staff. It is best for the students to choose the occupational specialism context for the ESP, but they can change specialisms midway through the programme. The conditions in which the ESP is completed are supervised, and the tasks are designed for the student to apply the knowledge and skills to a real-world activity. Teachers must retain all students' evidence and submit it to NCFE for marking. There are sample ESPs on qualhub, and it is recommended that students practice completing this type of activity, possibly using case studies or scenarios from their industry placement as the basis for them. We can also provide support and guidance for teachers to help them prepare their students and themselves to manage the Employer Sept project. To look at the ESP in more detail, we'll now run through a flowchart showing how the different tasks are managed. The 12-hour ESP project is made up of 4 distinct tasks. Some of them contain multiple elements. So the ESP starts with a student research-based activity that will be based on pre-release project information. The student research should be focused on collating information and materials that they have received during their learning throughout their qualification, which can include any information pertinent to the contextualized version of the assessment, for example, the EYFS. The pre-release activity can be shared with students 3 weeks before the first supervised assessment session, which should only be scheduled to take place within the relevant assessment series window. So task 1 requires the students to create an early support or intervention plan based on the pre-release information and project brief. And then moving on to task 1B, it requires the students to then produce an activity plan based on the plan produced for task 1A. The next task is based on a student group discussion and peer review. So for task 2A, students must not start this task until all of their student cohort have completed task 1 completely. For 2A Part 1, the students are asked to review each other's activity plans produced in task 1B. For 2A Part 2, the students then carry out the group discussion about their activity plans, and the students will then review their feedback they've received in that discussion and make changes to improve their plan further. This must be completed all under supervised conditions. Moving on to task 3, part A, students will use their early support plan and updated activity plan to prepare for a discussion with their tutor. So in 3B, the tutor should take the role of a workplace supervisor, for example, a key worker or teacher, and take part in a professional discussion with the student about their approach and exploring the rationale behind it. This role play type discussion also requires the teacher to assess the student's verbal communication skills and complete a feedback form. And then finally, for task 4, the student will work under supervised conditions to reflect on the tasks and review their project work in relation to the project brief. So we would suggest that students are told that there are a number of different tasks, but they're all based on their activity plan, reviewing it and developing it. Templates for all of these are provided for all of these tasks, which makes practicing for this assessment task an option for you to build into your curriculum planning. Okay, so moving on to the occupational specialism assessment, but we do encourage you to focus on the core in the first year of delivery. So this is going to be a brief overview. When I say concentrate on the core in the first year of delivery, it's probably going to be contextualized to the occupational specialisms that your students are going to be taking part in. But first of all, I'd like to find out which specialism or specialisms you're going to be involved with so that I can make this next section more relevant. So I'm going to launch the poll there. Please let me know, are you going to be working only on early years educator, only on assistant teaching, only on supporting and mentoring, both early years educator and assistant teaching, or do you not know yet? Is it not confirmed? So please choose the most relevant one for that for us, and as I say, it'll help me to make sure that this next section is relevant to what you're doing. So we're nearly there. We've got 75% votes in. So thank you to those who've been voting so far. I'll just give another couple of minutes to let you share your answer for me. Okay, lovely. I'm going to close that poll now. So we've got a bit of a mix. We've got early years educator and both early years educator and assistant teaching. So thanks for that. That's great. That helps inform what we're going to say next. Okay, so the assignments for the OS are a series of tasks based on that specialist area. Think of these as being the opportunity for the students to put their core knowledge learning into practice. There are specific conditions and timings for each of the tasks, which we'll be able to focus on in CPD sessions and, of course, consultations. So formative assessment for the occupational specialism can take place at any time and are seen as being good practice. So what you can see on the screen now is an overview of how the synoptic assignments take place, how they are graded, what conditions they are taken under, and of course you've also got the unlimited retakes, the same as for the core. Okay, so these tables on the screen now provide an overview of the assessment durations and timings across all three of the specialisms. We will be able to share the windows for these later in the webinar because they do differ for each of the areas. So depending on which specialism you're delivering, you can see on the screen now exactly how long the assignments have to be completed and what their weightings are. So all assessments include coverage of the general competency framework. For example, the exams will have contextualised maths questions and have allocated marks in the written answers for the quality of their written communication. These competencies in English, maths and IT should be developed whilst students are on the T-level programme, regardless of the T-level expert requirement already being met. So please talk to us about CPD for these areas if you might find them useful. So moving into curriculum planning and final grading. For planning purposes, we're firstly going to clarify these terms. So guided learning hours are when students are participating in education or training under the immediate guidance or supervision of their lecturer, supervisor, tutor, etc. This includes the activity of being assessed if taken place under the immediate guidance or supervision of a lecturer, supervisor, tutor, or other appropriate provider of education or training. The total qualification time is the GLH for the qualification plus the work students would be doing outside of the classroom, such as home study, revision, etc. Estimated numbers of hours of students will likely spend on preparation, study, or any other form of participation in education or training, for example, home study. So as a guide, this first table shows the GLH and TQT for the core components. You'll see that assessment is included in the TQT, but as the GLH are meant to be as a guide and are not mandated, centres may deliver the content in more or less hours. The second table shows the same for early years educator. And we've also got one the same for assistant teaching. All information shown on these two slides, on these two tables, has been taken directly from the qual spec. And if you haven't seen them yet, I'll be showing you where you can find them shortly. Okay, so this table provides an example curriculum plan. Having a comprehensive initial assessment and induction stage is going to be vital, as students may be starting their T-level course after many months out of learning, and their GCSEs being awarded as teacher assessed grades. Centres will need to ensure that the students do have all the skills required to start their T-level programme. We all know that GCSE grades do not always assure the full range of skills and knowledge, so please plan your induction activities in a way that fully assesses your students' starting points in relation to all aspects of the T-level, but of course their potential as well. So this will inform your student registration. We don't have the, we do have the dates for next academic year. All students will need to be registered with us with NCFE by the 31st of October. Unless, if it's after that, you can have late registrations, but of course there'll be late registrations fees, and would rather you didn't have to pay those. So advice here is to use the induction period to ensure that students are enrolled and registered onto the most appropriate course. So in this example, the core content delivery starts in September and runs through, as you can see on the screen now, to April, so that all the core content has been delivered by about Easter, and then after Easter, students can work on preparing for the exams and completing the exams on the Employer Sept project. The assessments for the Employer Sept project will then take place in May and the exams in June. This would be the summer series of assessment for year 1, with the results being published in August. And now for planning the industry placement. There we go. In this example, year 1 starts in November and pauses at Easter to allow the students to focus on the core assessments. The placement then has a further short time planned in the summer, and then the occupational specialism input could then start some delivery and directed remote learning tasks at the end of year 1. Then be the focus and the start of year 2, along with the recommencement of the industry placement. The autumn series in November-December allows for resits if required, or you may plan to bypass the summer series, take longer to deliver the core, planning for the students to sit the first assessment here instead. But of course, that takes out that option for the resit. The results for these are then published in March, and the OS assessment should then take place between February and April of year 2. There's also another opportunity for resits in the summer series of year 2, and then the final results and exams in ASP are in August. So looking at this example, please start to consider how you're already planning or how you're going to structure your own curriculum. And if you've already started doing this, you'll need to make a list of the interdependencies such as timetabling, staff specialisms and availability, and of course industry placement, and any other considerations you might need to include. For example, some centres are bringing in study skills development and academic literacies. Placements can take place on a day release basis or in blocks. It might be dictated by the placement employers, so this will also impact on how you plan your curriculum. But the advice here would be to use the students' placement experience in the classroom to make all the theoretical learning come to life. We'll also recommend that the students work on English and maths and digital skills throughout their programme, and that's regardless of whether they've got the exit requirement. I know that Ofsted do and have asked sent us T-level students about how they are developing their English and maths skills whilst on programme, so that's a very important point to consider in your planning. So moving on to grading, each core component's marks will be combined to form the overall grade for the core component. The marks for the occupational specialism assignment will form the occupational specialism grade. This first table here shows how the core and OS grades are awarded, and these grades will be submitted to the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education, who will issue an overall grade for the T-level TQ. This can be seen on the second table. And as you can see, the overall TQ grade has a stronger weighting for the OS than for the core. An example of this would be the student being awarded a C grade for the core and a distinction grade for the OS. And then this table would be used to award an overall grade of distinction. So this next table shows how the UCAS points are awarded using the T-level overall grade as the basis. There has been and continues to be much work carried out to promote T-levels to universities. Centres have been in contact with their local higher education institutes to reinforce these as a progression route. And please talk to your account executives if you'd like more information related to your local area and how NCFE can help you with this if needed. Okay, we'll now move on to qualhub and the key areas you'll need for successful delivery of the T-level programme. I'll also take this opportunity again to remind you to ask questions in the relevant box in the control panel for us. Okay, so the website address can be seen on the screen now. And this is the landing page for qualhub. If you click on qualifications, it takes you to a search site. It's best for you to filter this to take you straight to the T-level section. If you search T-levels, you'll see you've gone from over 1,700 qualifications to 6. Scroll down here and the Education and Childcare section can be seen. This is the home page for this TQ, and the support materials and qual spec is going to be the most useful area for yourselves. I'm going to quickly add here as well that adaptation section contains the topic tests which were produced by the assessment design team in order to support our tag process. They are mini tests that are linked to the education and childcare elements, and a lot of centres have found them very useful to download and use in their planning for the exams and formative assessment for the course. So I'd recommend you looking at that adaptation section for the topic tests. So in the support materials section, you'll find a range of support materials. There are fact sheets, sample exam papers, tutor guidance, ESP samples and templates. And if you haven't already looked here, it would be a good place to start. In the teaching materials section, you'll find sample resources, schemes of work, essential and additional resources for the core and OS components. Our Wave 1 centres have found these extremely useful as a starting point for their planning and delivery. There are a range of resources including PDFs, worksheets, e-learning modules and session plans. Obviously, these would need to be adapted to meet the needs of your own students. And the most important document can also be found here, and that's the qual spec. I'd recommend you always go to this document as it is updated, and if you download and save it, you need to ensure that you're always using the most recent version. So as you can see, the version on screen now has version 2 and is dated April 2021. So please always check on qualhub that you're using the most up-to-date version. Okay, the other important parts of the website include the exam timetable. You'll find these in the delivery and learner support section. If you click here, you'll find the subsections that you can see on the screen now. And the external assessment timetable will take you to the most recent versions of those. So everything you need regarding dates for all the assessments, you'll find on there. So this is taken from the timetable document, and you'll find that the section I showed you on the previous slide for the core components external examinations. You can see the booking cut-off dates, exam dates and times, and when the results will be published. This shows this for the Autumn 21 and Summer 22 series for education and childcare, and I would suggest your students should have all the core content delivered to them by the time the summer dates arise. As I say, that will allow for reset opportunities in Autumn 22 and Summer 23 windows if they're needed. So we'll now have a look at the policies and documents section. All the policies, fees, regulations and forms you're going to need are in this section here, and you can see them on the second image now. Those are your important docs. And in the assessment regulations section, you'll find the regulations doc and the qualification specific instructions, or the QSID, we refer to it. Please refer to these documents to ensure your centre is compliant. And also, again, please ensure you refer to the most recent versions of these as time progresses, they are updated. And then finally, for access arrangements, look in the forms section. For reasonable adjustments, please be aware that there are timescales, which you can see in the table shown on the screen now. As I say, these are all taken directly from the documents that you would find on qualhub. Just going to check if we have any questions, and there's nothing coming through at the moment. So Okay, so the final section of today's webinar relates to a summary of the support and review any questions as they come in. So firstly, a reminder about the teaching and learning resources which have been produced. The core schemes of work provide a good starting point, and centre feedback to date focuses on their usefulness as a starting point for your curriculum planning and getting up to speed with the qual spec and requirements. The essential resources are free to all centres, and there are also additional resources which can be purchased. If you haven't already had a look, the textbooks are also now available from HODA for education and childcare. And one of the things centres have told us about the textbook is that they found it very useful to clarify how much detail or depth to go into for some of the elements that are possibly new or have been added because of the T-level new core content. So as I say, recommend looking at the textbook. It's a student textbook, very useful for both EYE and AT, but extremely useful to clarify how much depth to go into. So this table shows how the core elements have been grouped into the resource themes. You'll also have seen this table in the materials section of today's webinar, and that's for your information. If your centre plans to structure your delivery around the themes, it's also very useful for you to see which theme covers which elements. So if you're looking for a specific resource, you can go straight to that theme in which the element sits on qualhub. And as I said earlier, it's up to centres to choose how they plan their delivery and adapt and use the NCFE resources. Please talk to me in consultations about this if it would help, or put questions into the question box or the chat box, sorry, for us. So if, for example, you're looking for a resource to teach Element 11, the special educational needs section, you would need to look in theme 4 for that. So that's a nice, easy reference document so you can see where the elements sit in amongst the themes for the resources. Please be aware that these resources have been produced for everyone to use, but they haven't been produced for your specific students. So if you look at a session activity and think that it wouldn't work for your learners, you've got a better equivalent level 3 activity that you can use, please feel free to adapt and use whichever works best for you and your learners. So on the screen now is a reminder of the website addresses you'll find useful. This third link takes you to the T-level specific page, and if you choose the page for education and childcare, shown by the arrow that you can see, it takes you to the education and childcare specific page. There are a number of useful links here, and some of the pages I've already shown you in today's webinar, you can see there. If you have any queries, please talk to your account exec or myself or one of the provider development team for further advice and guidance. So this slide shows the interactive PDF you'll use to book on our onboarding and CPD sessions. The link to the booking page is also shown, as well as the link to our previous session recordings. So the CPD sessions we have already offered to our Wave 1 centres for the first year of their T-level delivery. This document also takes you to the booking page as well as the previous links to the Wave 2 sessions. So all of our CPD is bespoke to the T-level specific areas. So for education and childcare, you should choose the subject area shown by the arrow on the screen now. The offer we have planned for education childcare can be found here, but we do ask for staff input on what we deliver. So please share any ideas you have for CPD topics or sessions with us. So other useful websites. So here's the link to the HODA page first of all. They have produced a mapping document to current and other HODA textbooks for education and childcare, which also will allow staff to see which are the similarities to other programs. We always say that you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from your current level 3 provision in your planning, but any current textbooks that you have, as I say, that HODA mapping document shows you where the older textbooks match directly to the T-level core content. HOD have also produced knowledge knowledge organisers, which many of our Wave 1 centres have found really useful. And these will also help you to source additional information to help underpin your student knowledge. So HUD have also now released the Education and Childcare textbook, one for each of the EYE and AT specialisms. And then the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education website also has some useful information, including news, updates for students, employers and providers. So you can see the link to that on the screen now. So this next slide provides information regarding key contacts. So the customer support team are there as your first line of enquiry. I'm your key contact for any support related to teaching and learning and the CPD sessions. And then the account managers support centres with the business of delivering T-levels. So you see the account managers have areas that they look after. So those are on the screen now for your information. I cover the whole of the country and CST do too. So your first port of call, CST, for the business side of things, your account managers, and then for CPD and teach and learn support, that's myself. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the session now, and I'm going to launch the next poll. Can you please revisit where you're at now with your confidence level? How do you feel? And if you could, same scale, 1 being low and 10 being high, let us know where you feel now. That poll should be visible to yourselves now. While you're doing that, if you have any questions, this is where it's your opportunity to ask them. Pop them into the chat box for us, please. And that would be wonderful. Okay, we've got 100% voted, so I'm going to close that. I'll just very quickly share, we've got some very confident people in the room now, so that's great. So thanks for that. As I said briefly earlier, you should have confidence in your current subject knowledge. If you've taught level 3 before, nothing has really changed because of T-levels coming in. Your starting point is your current level 3 provision. Your level 3 program is still a level 3 program, and your level 3 student is still a level 3 student. Yes, there are more academic rigor. There is more academic rigor in T-levels, but these are skills that you can teach, and centres have found that they taught via study skills sessions in year 1. So we have a new assessment regime, a new assessment methods, but we don't have a brand new qualification. We've got the same industry, the same type of learners and the same type of qualification, slightly different assessment methods, and a broader curriculum, but that's your starting point where you currently know your level 3 standards are, and how the T-level has added to that would be your review. Okay, we don't have any questions. As I say, I'm going to just keep going through this. We're nearly finished now. All I have left to say really is to say thank you for attending and participating in the session today. If you have any questions, the question chat box is still open there for you, and I'm more than happy to take questions. We also have an evaluation as you log out of this webinar, and your feedback and ideas do help us to develop our CPD offer. And as I say, we do want your input on the types of content and session topics you'd like us to do. All the links to the T-level support pages are on this page now, and I will send this out to you after the event. So as I say, thanks again, and goodbye from everyone at NCFE, and please stay safe, and we do look forward to working with you again and supporting you on your T-level journey. So thank you so much, and any questions, please pop them in the chat box. Thanks again.